Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, My Girlfriend, a 35-year-old female, makes much more than me and is causing division. What do I do? And a big shout out to Vegas Mike for sending me this story. And guys, this story is about a guy whose girlfriend, he and his girl aren't exactly getting along too well because there's a lot of division. And why? Because she makes, according to him, around $600,000 a year. This is in the US of A. $600,000 a year. And he makes 85. And guess what? He doesn't make enough money for her. They obviously are talking about marriage and all that. And pretty much, she ain't marrying him unless he starts making a lot more money, better job, that type of thing. Newsflash. If you're making $600,000 a year, let me tell you something. You're quite comfortable here in the USA, unless you have created an astronomical amount of expenses, a super expensive mortgage, super expensive student loans, all these types of things. But even that, but the two of them together, and I might add other parts of the USA, depending where you live, you're making that, you're really living like kings. But in her mind, nope. He doesn't make enough. And this completely kills the narrative that it's okay for a gal to make a ton of money and a guy not to make as much because everything will work out just fine. It should be just the same as a man making more money. It's nonsense. At the end of the day, they all want a guy that they can feel like they got a prize with. Well, how many guys walking around out there in the USA, statistically, are making $600,000 a year? Really? And if he is, likely he's much older. There are exceptions, of course, super successful people early on. Who knows what the situation is, but you all get the point. And so it's complete nonsense that the narrative that, it doesn't make a difference what he makes and she makes a lot of money, everything's fine. Nonsense. And you're also going to see she is a cheapskate. Not just frugal, cheap, as is her parents. And he likes to enjoy life a bit, and so it's just not going to work out. Let me go over here, because it's definitely a funny situation, and backing up, you got to have certain key values aligned. He says here, my girl makes $600,000, substantially more than me, and I make $85,000 a year. She's in a career where you need a master's degree. My career is in a good sector with good growth potential, but hard to match hers unless I also get a master's. Dude, there are plenty of people walking around there with master's degrees that don't make $600,000 a year. Not even effing close. So, if you think you're going to get a master's and suddenly just whoosh, go from $85,000 to $600,000, no. She's obviously in a certain sector, whatever that may be. He doesn't mention that clearly, probably in the financial sector. I work 2 jobs and both are at nonprofits. Well, that's one big reason why you're not making as much more than you could. So the pay is less than for a for-profit side. She didn't pay for school, so no debt or loans on her end. We both have a lot of savings. So she didn't pay for school. Well, you're going to find out her family's loaded. Some background here. She wants to keep it financial separate when we get married. Oh, imagine that. When she's making a ton of money, nope. No joint accounts, but when the guy's making a ton of money, then the gals want the joint accounts. I get that people will keep money earned before marriage separate and inheritance separate, but I always thought money earned during marriage is joint and that marriage is coming together of everything. That's how I was brought up and my expectations. However, I'm willing to go along with her wishes and set up a joint account. Well, I don't care who it is. In my opinion, and I stand by this, you get married, if you're going to do that, the man has his bank account in his name and his name only that his paychecks or business profits go to. The wife has her account in her name that her paycheck or business profits go to. And you have a joint account that takes care of, you both contribute to take care of mutual expenses, the mortgage, money for the kids, the electric bill, all that type of thing. As well as credit cards in your name, credit cards in her name, not joint, brokerage accounts, 401ks, separate, you get the point. But in terms of paying for mutual things, then, obviously, whoever's making more can certainly be more generous because it's the same pot. But even now, before marriage, is frustrating, and I'm not sure I want to live my life like that. She is frugal to the point of being a character defect. I'm more relaxed, and the mindset that money comes and money goes, enjoy life. Smack! That's a bad place to be. Money comes, money goes sounds like it means it comes in one door and out the other because you spend a lot. All right? Guys, I am absolutely behind 100% that you need to put away money, both for emergency funds, as well as investing leftovers to build wealth. Because guess what? Life has problems, and you need money to take care of problems when shit happens. And it does happen. Usually it happens all at once, and just spending money as you go, like, you're not going to live forever. That's just foolish, The next thing you know, you're going to be working till you're 85 years old because you can't retire. That's a problem a lot of Americans have. I'm all fine with enjoying yourself a little bit, but there's a balance. But he sounds like too far to the spending side, and she's too far, and she ain't frugal to the cheapskate side. I think that if I have to put in 100%, if my income is to a joint account, it's unfair for her to get to put in 20% and save the rest. I said if I make more, or if we switch places, I contribute more, but she says it's easy to say and wouldn't be true if it actually happened, whatever that means. In other words, because he makes substantially less, he obviously has to put pretty much everything he earns into the joint to take care of mutual expenses. And for her, she still has a ton of money left over to just do what she wants, which she obviously saves. Well, that's the thing. If she makes $600,000 a year, I respect her success. I think that's awesome. And if he wants to work for a nonprofit, that's his business, but he's going to make a lot less. But still, guess what? If they have a certain standard of living, she can obviously contribute more for that, if indeed that's some of the things is what she wants. There's a balance here. He says the situation. Normally when joint income is so high, it's a blessing, I would think, but it's causing a lot of friction and resentment. Here are some examples, and I hope these examples help explain the situation since I've had a hard time writing this post. It says, number 1, I want 2 kids, and she says I don't make enough money for 1 kid and that I can't afford to live, let alone raise a kid. She keeps referring it to being able to afford my kid versus our hypothetical kid. Newsflash, okay, he makes $85,000 a year, and say it was just him and another kid, that's fine. But guess what? If they're married and she's bringing in $600,000 a year in the moment, and he's 85, believe me, they can afford 2 kids or more kids. But she's looking right down the middle in the situation. He says, I save maybe 20% of my income, and some months I break even. But I'm told I shouldn't go to Chipotle for lunch or even use too many paper towels because they're expensive. She's counting the paper towels you use. Oh my God. She also gets really mad when I tip. She puts in $1 for a taxi and I put in 15%. I used to work for tips as a summer job, so it's important. $1 for a taxi or maybe Uber or Lyft. Yeah, she's cheap. She is very against the man making less. That she wants to split everything 50-50, so what I put in, she puts in, not a penny more, as a way to hammer home this feeling. Right there. Very much against the man making less. Again, what happened to the narrative that the woman can make a ton of money and the guy not, and it's okay, and everybody live happily ever after? Bullshit. Well, guess what? Clearly she can't find a guy walking around making the same income that she does because it's extremely rare. And by the way, I'm sure she probably wants other things like 6 feet tall, 6-pack, you get the point here. What does she bring to the table, aside from the fact that she makes a lot of money? Because at the end of the day, making a lot of money doesn't make a man's you-know-what get hard. What makes a man interested is she attractive physically? Her facial features. Is she fun to be around? Is she feminine? Is she girly? Is she loyal, supportive? She doesn't sound like any of these things. She sounds like a giant pain in the ass. Also, she keeps saying that I need to look for higher paying jobs. Ding, ding, ding. And I should apply to hundreds a day like the house is on fire. I do apply just as I have time. I have a weekday job at a nonprofit as well as a weekend job. My therapist says I have quality, respectful employment, and I should be proud of that. Plus, I work 2 jobs, so I'm not sitting around being lazy. She said the man should be the provider. Right there. Bitch, you make $600,000 a year, but she probably wants a guy obviously makes that much, so she can then really have a certain heightened lifestyle, if you will. Well, why aren't you with that type of guy? Because she can't get that type of guy. Because guess what? Very few walk around making that kind of money, and if they do, they probably don't want her. She wants to buy the house, so it's in her name and not both of our names on it, and I pay the taxes. Bullshit. If you're paying, no, both names, if you're going to get married, both names are on it. But in this scenario, I'm not building any equity. When I suggest splitting the mortgage 50-50 and both being on the deed, she says she wants to buy a $1 million house out of my price range, which is $700,000. Bro, she is trouble. You need to end it. So he wants to buy a house, and even though he makes far less than her, wants to pay 50-50 so he can build equity. Nope. It is her way or the highway here. When I bring up the $700,000 house, she says she refuses to live in the poor area. So then the only option is to each own different percentage of the house, 60-40. And I pay 40% of the mortgage, and she pays 60%. So I want to know where they live, that a $700,000 house is the poor area. Now, of course, guys, I understand that. You talk about a lot of parts of California or New York or Jersey or guess what? Massachusetts, I used to live there. And parts of South Florida, yeah. But still, it ain't the poor area if it's $700,000. But she says that isn't fair to her because she's taking more risk. But I said you also get more of the upside by owning 60%, or whatever the split ends up being. Then we sell it. It's like you invest more in the asset and you get more return investment when we sell. So the house thing is a standoff. Relationships should be easy and fun, and enjoyable, ideally. This is nothing that at all. What is he seeing in her? He doesn't mention her looks. She really is making this out to be a business deal, and relationships are business deals. It says the root of the problem. The income difference is a real point of resentment for her, and she uses terms like, I refuse to be the breadwinner, etc. I said that couples I know where both partners work and it never the same income. Unless you have the same job at the same company with the benefits, it will be different. For example, my job puts in 10% of my salary into the 401(b), and I have great insurance. Her job makes a lot more, but benefits are less. He says, I feel emasculated and worthless and like my job doesn't matter. There is more to marriage than money. Ha ha ha. Tell that to a lot of gals. Who cooks? Who takes care of the kids? Who does other stuff around the house? How can a marriage be defined by the take-home pay? I know people who are miserable and work all the time and it's toxic. But perhaps, to her point, I'm not making enough in the world of high cost of living. We also live in a high-cost blue state. Ding, ding, ding. That's what I was thinking. I should make more, and I'm applying to 125K pay range jobs, but happy to do it slowly and not rush out of a job that I like. Well, at the end of the day, if this guy wants to keep working at nonprofits and he's happy and he can make the equivalent now of $85,000 a year, which ain't small potatoes, I might add, and great insurance, and he's happy, fine, he shouldn't be with her. He should be with somebody else that is more like him, and, but she's always going to make him feel like crap about himself. Now, if he himself wants to move up to a higher paying job for at-profit business, then fine, it's his business. But I guarantee, even if he gets a job at 125, which he's mentioning here, that still is very small compared to her $600,000 a year, and she's always going to be bitching about it. Now, here's some more things. He says she also thinks she is poor, and her parents, as well as her parents, while they very often have at $10 million, they're the same way. They will take all the napkins and plastic forks from a restaurant or all the sugar packets from a diner. Or if there's cream and half, bring cups and take it all. Just to save money on sugar, napkins, and stuff. Oh my God. Her parents are worth $10 million, give or take, and they're stealing napkins and all that stuff from diners and restaurants. That's the freaking worst. Absolute cheapskates. Guys, I'm all for being frugal, being smart with your money, but there's tiers. There's frugal, then there's thrifty, then there's cheap. They're fucking cheap. There's being intentional on spending and cost consciousness, but also frugal to the point of concern. People can exist on both ends of the spectrum. I feel like they think that they are poor, like anorexic people think that they are fat. I want to have kids and figure out the costs as we go. I mean, college isn't for 20 years. Well, it's important early on to don't just figure out costs as you go. Have a good solid plan early on and live with that. And I got no problem having a plan. You got to have a plan. Early on, the better, and putting away money and not living life as you go and money comes and goes with his attitude there. At least he's putting away some money, which he said earlier, but these two are not compatible. Should I adapt to her ultra frugality and try to make more money, or is this relationship something that isn't going to work due to the income difference? Smack! You have to actually ask that question. She's not ultra frugal, she's ultra cheap. And she makes you feel like crap about yourself. I'm sure you're a great guy and will make a good husband and father, but it's all about dollar and cents to her, and you're never going to make her happy and good enough to her. You shouldn't be living with someone that makes you feel like crap. Like I said, I thought it'd be a blessing if joint income is so high. Instead, it's just a cluster of fighting, anger, and resentment on all sides. We're seeing a couples therapist for the first time today, so any advice on what to bring up? Is this all a control thing? Thank you for the advice. Well, here's the advice. Break up. You're not going to work. Any good therapist is going to pretty much say that, you know? She makes you feel like crap about yourself. Everything's like it's like fucking negotiating a business deal with her, okay? And she doesn't sound like any fun at all. And you're never going to be able to enjoy yourself. I'm sure every vacation she's going to be, if you can get her to go on vacation and do things that are enjoyable, she's going to be running it like a business deal and be cheap and miserable and just, it's not worth it, man. But anyhow, back to the main point of the story. This goes to show you the whole narrative that she can make a lot of money and him not make a lot of money. It's nonsense. Now, other exceptions, of course. I'm sure there's some gals out there that make very good money and the guy doesn't make nearly as much, and they have a happy life together, and she's not, because she can actually appreciate him and all that. I'm sure that's out there. But sadly, there are a lot out there that, to them, hey, if he's not making as much as I am, he's a loser. And ideally, they want a guy that makes more money, more status. You get the point. So break up with her and get together with a gal that's more, not just aligned with you financially, but also in the same goals and all that. And I might add this, guys. It's rare to find two people, a couple, that are 100% aligned. Someone's always going to be more of a spender and someone's going to be more of a saver. But there's degrees of this. If it's one extreme to the other, that's a disaster. Life's about balance, and you can enjoy yourself. I enjoy myself, but believe me, I am a saver in the sense I save money and then invest it in things that are going to appreciate in value. I enjoy building wealth, but I enjoy myself, but there's a balance. With her, there's no balance. And he's willing to become balanced, but he'll never make her happy. So that's what I think. Now, real quick, a few comments here. I know I love the comments on this video. This guy says, reviews make the number of men who could be compatible such a small number. She makes $600K annually. She basically limited to lawyers, doctors, software engineers, and athletes at the absolute top of the game and high-level C-class executives. She's in the 0.00001% and wants someone else in that same vein. If that's your expectation, she's going to have a rough go of finding a partner. There's a reason she doesn't have that guy, because she's no doubt masculine and ball busting, and pride doesn't do it in the looks department for those types of guys. She needs therapy, and Opie needs to break up. He'll never be able to make an income that outpaces hers unless he gets incredibly lucky and finds a way to make 10 times what he does now. Another guy says, if I made over $500,000 while my partner made under $100K, I simply would not ask for them for any money. I would have more than enough to support us both. Like, I don't even know what I would do with all the excess money. But I'm sure you'd figure it out. If they want to contribute, I'd be grateful and appreciative, but the disparity is so great that I would never want my partner to be stressed out financially. We're in this life together, and no reason not to make sure that the person I want to build a life with, we aren't living good. Exactly. And one more. This guy says, you feel emasculated because for some reason, that's exactly what she's trying to do. I don't know if she feels like she's going to shame you into increasing your income by several multipliers, but that's not how it works. She really is being awful. She has to figure out if she's willing to be in it with someone that makes less than she does or not. And it sounds like she made it clear she's not willing, but has decided she's going to punish you for as long as you stay with her until you do. Right. He says, I make a similar multiplier 6 to 7 times more than my significant other, but as long as the reason for the disparity isn't laziness or lack of effort on his part, this is from a woman, and it's not, I'm fine with that. Our lives took different paths, and that's okay. He's hardworking and dependable as fuck. That's all that matters to me. Because, it's not like money is a problem. He's not dependent on me. He might not be able to enjoy as many fancy things and trips without me paying for them, but he managed just fine on his own if he had to. Well, that's really nice. That's a gal right there writing about that guy. She makes a ton of money and she doesn't care because obviously he acts like a man. He's dependable and reliable and he's her rock. Great. That's as it should be, but it's rare. So there you go, guys. The whole narrative about that whole thing, like I said, they can make more, is nonsense overall. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know, guys. Have you been in a situation with the girlfriend makes a lot more money, or do you know anybody who has? How'd that whole thing go? How'd that thing turn out? I'd like to hear about it in the comment section. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.